Welcome to Reaching New Heights with Troy Bell, the city manager, City of Muskegon Heights, where you get to know what you need to know so you'll be in the know. Every Wednesday at 2 p.m. So, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for clicking on. And thanks for the comments in between the last session and this segment. Um, as always, like to give thanks to the council and the mayor for all of the support that they give me in the service of the community and my job as the city manager. I would not be here were it not for. Do we have good sound? Okay, all right. We have good sound, so I would not be here were it not for the action of council. So cannot underestimate or undervalue that. Um, got plenty of questions from our last show about roads. So we are going to revisit that topic here today and questions during the council meeting. And thanks to all the people that tuned in, whether it was on Zoom or came in person to the council meeting. We certainly appreciate your involvement and enthusiasm because that's the way democracy works. That's the way local government becomes better, that we get better by interacting with and engaging with the customers, the citizens, the residents that we serve. So before we jump into roads, I want to do some quick general announcements. We are in the middle of our spring cleanup. I must again commend Mr. Morrow and also Code Enforcement Officer Mr. Calvin Davis for taking the lead on this beautification campaign. Beautify the Heights, help fight the blight. Please come down to City Hall and sign up for a yard sign or multiple yard sign because we want to get the word out that we are raising the bar with our community. We are elevating the expectation that this is a clean and safe community, and it's going to take all of us coming together to accomplish that. Again, if you've seen the billboards around town, please feel free to click on and leave a comment in there. I'd like to know what location you did see the billboards because that gives us an idea of where we have visibility and value in that visibility. This is part of a whole campaign, the billboards, the yard signs. We've had multiple meetings around volunteerism, folks that want to volunteer to be part of the larger effort of cleaning up our community. Because I've said it many times and I'll say it again, this is a beautiful community with beautiful people. And um, all we need to do is, at this point, come together and raise the bar on keeping it clean. That's not something that City Hall or Public Works can do on their own, but we have to change the mindset. I've seen people cross over the line from other communities and our communities and then throw stuff out the window of their cars. Um, I've seen the same folks in downtown who I've seen toss trash on the ground here in Muskegon Heights, find a trash can in the city of Muskegon. And so that's a mindset of accountability and appreciation for the community that we have to address and change. And so this whole campaign is designed to say, front and center, we want our community to be clean, safe. We want it to be neat and orderly. And the folks in this community deserve that. And so you should have gotten postcards in the mail that talk about cutting grass, fixing fences, fixing the outside of your house, the front porch, the doors, the siding, paint, not parking on the grass, disabled vehicles. All of those things go into the soup that says that this community cares and that we care about the people in this community. So to that extent, the work that we put in through this campaign will make a difference. We are elevating our community. The values of our homes are going up consistently the last 3 years that I've been here. And so we want to continue that trend by the things that we're doing with this effort. In addition to the volunteers that have signed up, the Community Foundation has come to the table. United Way has come to the table. The Muskegon Heights Business Association, CCD, all of those organizations that have put timeless effort into events and cleanups are now coming together under the leadership of Mr. Morrow and Mr. Davis, who have really taken up the mantle that I threw down, that we have to do better. We have to figure out a way to do things differently so that we can have an impact on our community. And they've run with it. And what they've done in bringing folks together is amazing. So, what they've established is a Saturday cleanup. The third Saturday in the month of May, June, July, and August are the cleanup dates that they've identified. And they've divided the city into quadrants, and each quadrant has a volunteer leader. The city has a quadrant that we are managing as volunteer coordinators. So if you're interested in volunteering with the city and the quadrant that we have, then please give us a call at 733-8870, and let whomever answers know that you want to sign up to be part of the Saturday cleanup. We are putting out a press release about that, so you'll be hearing additional information. But we want to make sure that as we move into the hot, muggy summer, that we have a clean, neat, orderly community. So please be part of that. Please contribute to that. We also have an effort going on at 8th Street Park that you might have heard of, fixing up 8th Street Park, trying to get the bathrooms online. We've got new basketball rims that are going up there, repaving the parking lot. And I want to thank the GUNS program, Gaining Unity Through Nonviolent Solutions, as well as their collaboration with the Lakehawks in Flight to reimagine the 8th Street Park, putting up goalposts so it's a field that can be used by the Pee Wee leagues as an actual football field, and a new playground that's going in there. And we're actively working to get sand to bring into that playground, as well as to the beach and the other playgrounds. Thank you to the city of Muskegon for being willing to donate free sand for this effort. Granted, we have to truck it back and forth, but that is a small price to pay for the free sand. And I appreciate the collaboration that we get from the former city manager, the acting city manager, the public works director there, the streets director, and working with us in moving the excess sand that they have to be used here in the city of Muskegon Heights. So we did that for the first time last year, and we want to make this an annual thing to replenish and refresh our playgrounds as well as our beachfront. And they've also contributed equipment in the past. So we're excited about that collaboration and what it's bringing to the community. But back to 8th Street Park. We're continuing to clean up that park. I want to commend our Councilwoman Kitchen for taking the lead and engaging with Home Depot. We have a nice grant that they put in for at Home Depot, several $1,000s. I don't have the exact amount, to be able to help with the effort to reconfigure 8th Street Park, equipment, and equipment is important, but I want to thank Home Depot for being willing to contribute hands and hearts, is what I call it. So their employees are going to participate in the volunteer effort to do the work at 8th Street Park. And that was something that was spearheaded by Councilwoman Kitchen. And so kudos and much thanks to her for having that idea and making the call and reaching out. Because every dollar helps. And right now, I think we are thousands and thousands of dollars that have been raised for our kids in this community. And it cannot be understated, the importance of parks in our community. One of the first things that I said when I came to Muskegon Heights is we have to figure out a way to get our Parks and Rec program up and running, because that is the pipeline of our community. If we can positively impact our youth and our young folks through opportunities to engage in recreational activities on these fields and in these parks, then we are investing in our future. we're investing 10 years down the road, 12 years down the road to people who would be good citizens and who will have love for our city. And so the effort that's going into the parks, and we have not yet figured out a way with our cost constraints and funding constraints to resurrect or stand up our Parks and Rec department in terms of programming, but we are actively working to get new infrastructure into um, our parks. 8th Street Park is an example. And I need to mention also Johnny O'Harris Park and the leadership that has come from Mr. Fife, Larry Fife, and putting in time and effort, time, talent, treasure into the work at Johnny O'Harris Park. Um, and it's amazing things that have been done there. The removal of the hazardous playground equipment, the new playground equipment, the new musical instruments that are there, the cleanup of the park, all these things coming together to help provide a more suitable environment at Johnny O'Harris Park and 8th Street Park. And lastly, what we're looking for to do in Rowan Park and Mona Lake Park to be able to round out what we've done with parks. You saw that we put the fencing in around the Pocket Park in downtown off of Broadway. But now we want to look at reconfiguring 8th Street Park to be able to put in a splash pad. And under the splash pad concept that we're calling the Band Together installation, a nice donated bronze sculpture of a Muskegon Heights band drum major and all the history that goes along with that. So that presentation was done to the DDA last night, yesterday at noon. In addition to the final approval of the vision plan that was paid for by the Community Foundation, where we reimagine the downtown area of Muskegon Heights under the title Reaching New Muskegon Heights. And so that vision plan that was presented to council last month, and in addition to the DDA, was formally approved by the DDA as a plan. Now, a plan is a guide. It is not set in stone. All that action that was taken yesterday at noon is that the DDA is accepting the work that was done under the grant from the Community Foundation by the Smith Group and saying that we as a community, as the Downtown Development Association, certify our buy-in to this concept of what we would like the downtown area of Muskegon Heights to look like in the next 5 to 10 years. We're following the script that was left by Imagine Muskegon. That was done 15, maybe 20 years ago. And looking at the plan that was drawn up back then and what Muskegon looks like, city of Muskegon looks like today, it's almost exactly the plan that was drawn out years ago. And so there's something to be said about having a vision and putting that vision down on paper. And as the scripture says, without vision, the people will perish. And so this is an effort to bring that vision to bear so that we can focus on the value of that vision and the potential of that vision and making that vision become a reality. And again, it's a guide. So there are going to be things that are included from that vision or excluded, things that are tweaked. But now we have a roadmap per se to be able to guide us as we move forward. And so that vision includes the installation of the Band Together splash pad in Rowan Park, the creation of pavilions and concert area in Rowan Park, the installation of a statue that's donated from Public Art. You know, the same folks that did the beautiful painting of the old rusty bridge, railroad bridges, are now doing a public art installation in Muskegon Heights. And we wanted something that was going to be a symbol of unity, to bring together a love and appreciation for our school district, and the rich history of our school district is represented by our sports and our band, as well as the focal point in our downtown area, right off of Broadway in Rowan Park, as a connection point between the city of Muskegon Heights and Muskegon Heights School District. And so excited about seeing that as part of the vision plan. You can go online to get a copy of that vision plan. There will be a press release released here pretty soon. So that's an exciting move. And um, we imagined in that vision plan that Baker Street would be turned into a walking promenade so that folks can come downtown, and we can do food truck rallies. We can have arts and crafts festivals. We can have uh, craft events where people put up tables and merchants are over a weekend festival able to show all the things that they are capable of producing and to engage with our community. And these are things that, you out of the survey, are part of public space. These are the things that give us an opportunity to come together and share in our relationships. And that's part of that vision for that downtown. In addition to that, is envisioned additional residential space there to kind of frame the other side of the road on Baker Street between Baker and Leahy. New residential, some new retail on Broadway, retail space, mixed use space on Broadway, residential space on both sides. These are things that I've talked about before, but I cannot leave this topic without mentioning the Strand building and the potential vision for either renovating, resurrecting, or rebuilding the Strand building. This is a building that's been closed for over 50 years. And so we want to see that come back as a functioning, vibrant part of the space that we have in our downtown area. We also look at that as an opportunity to provide parking, additional retail, and residential space in the new vision for the Strand building, not ever to walk away from the Strand building or the title Strand building, because we want to memorialize the value of that in our community. Even if it was to utilize the original bricks from that building in a new building, or if we renovate it, to open up the space to be able to engage with both the Rowan Park as well as Broadway, but to make it much more live and vibrant and um, uh, a critical part of the Rowan Park Strand complex that is our downtown. And all this is also part of an effort to repave um, repave Broadway. And I've said this before, so I'll reiterate for those that may be new and joining us that we have a grant request into the legislature to help us with repaving Broadway from Glade to Getty to the tune of $8 million. And along with that would come what we envision as facade grants to refresh the facades of the buildings downtown, and to attract more new businesses and entrepreneurs to our downtown area, to harken back to the day that this was a vibrant space where everybody who was somebody wanted to be seen and to spend time. So we're excited about that. Envisioning the sidewalk space and the lights. That's all part of what we're looking to do with our downtown space, and that grant is a critical piece of that. If we can reinvigorate our downtown space, then that is a ripple effect that should permeate from there. With a new road, with new building facades, with new construction, with a new park that is an active area that people can enjoy throughout the year. And I mentioned this before, but I forgot to mention it this time. That splash pad would also, as we envision it, be transition capable of transitioning to a skating rink, whether it's ice skating or roller skating, but building it in such a way that you can enjoy it in the summer, and then when it's no longer summer, still make use of that space as a public gathering space, whether it's ice skating, roller skating, or concerts. And to begin that revitalization of our activities down there, I want to remind everybody, in the month of August, every Friday in the month of August, we are featuring Friday Night Live. And of course, beginning at the end of May, the farmers market will reopen from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. From 5:30 p.m. will be Friday Night Live, where we block off the street from Peck to Baker and put out tables and chairs, music, food, beverages, all that as part of the Friday Night Live Festival until dark. And then on Friday night, we'll transition to Rowan Park for movies in the park. So we want to make this a fundamental piece of our community in Muskegon Heights on Fridays in August, that we would have these festivals. And depending on the weather, we might expand that into September. But before we get to August, we have the festival in the park in July. So that is back this year. I know it's been was canceled 2 years in a row due to COVID, but it's back. So make sure that you make plans for that. I believe it's July 18th, but I'll double check that date. And if somebody is listening and you can confirm that, please do. But we also have in June the Juneteenth celebration, which will be kicked off with the annual Rotary Mixer on Friday evening. I believe it's going to be starting at 5 p.m. on Friday with food, music, and opportunity to interact with the Rotary Club, to know the Rotary Club and what they stand for and what they believe, and the contributions that they give to our community, to also get a sense of the businesses in our community with an expo of the different businesses. There's over 200 businesses in this community, and some of us don't know them by name, don't know that they exist. And if you do know them by name, you may not have any idea what they do, what kind of business they do, and what they produce or what service they offer. So we want to make that a basic fundamental part of our Juneteenth celebration, followed on Saturday by more music, more food, and more opportunity to gather and enjoy each other's company. And then on Sunday, June 19th, the actual Juneteenth celebration with concerts, two live bands, and the um, sequel to last year's amazing fireworks show. A fireworks show this year, and we've got a nice twist to it this year. The fireworks company is upping their game one more level to include a musical accompaniment to the fireworks show. So we got exciting things. We're inviting people to come down from the lakeshore on the north and the lakeshore come up from the south to be part of this celebration with us. We have reached out to our neighbors in Norton Shores to come out and celebrate this important federal holiday with the city of Muskegon Heights as our neighbors on one side, and co-users of Mona Lake. So hopefully they will join us officially with that event and make this a festival that brings people all the way from Grand Rapids. So we're excited about these new things coming to Muskegon Heights in terms of events. I know I haven't hit all of them, but those are the big ones off the bat. And we should have a calendar that we publish here in the next week that shows all of the events, including the ones that I haven't covered. Some exciting news on grants that we've received here in Muskegon Heights. We are about to kick off grant work on our industrial parks because we have to bring in new industry or bring back industry to Muskegon Heights. And we have a $100,000 grant that was funded to be able to do a study to redefine our industrial parks on the east side and on the west side, so that we can have a plan, not only on how we can redevelop those sites, but also a plan on how we can market and attract those businesses. We have about 3,000 jobs in Muskegon Heights, and right now about 2,800 people as of the 2017-18 data commute in for those jobs. But we want to expand that instead of 3,000 jobs in Muskegon Heights, 6,000 jobs in Muskegon Heights, to expand opportunities for our residents to have those jobs where they live, so that they can live and work in the city of Muskegon Heights. Also, we have the development that's going up on the corner of Peck and Sherman. Within the next 60 days, the demolition should be started on that corner. And once that demolition is done, which will be about 3 to 6 months, we will see a new buildings going up that are part of a retail residential complex, retail on the bottom and residential above. And that's thanks in large part to $1 million grant from the Eagle. Um, and so that is an exciting thing that you will see in the coming months, as well as the bids just went out on our drinking water revolving loan fund. That's a $7 million project, or projects funded by $7 million, of which $5 million of it is a grant. $2 million of it is funded through a bond issuance. So that work is out to bid now, and there's multiple projects under that will segue into the discussion about roads. But lots of money coming into Muskegon Heights to be a catalyst for change here in Muskegon Heights. New construction for new homes is still in the pipeline. That's a 30 to 45 day before they break ground on that. So when our summer hits, you should see a lot of things jumping off in a short period of time and short space. I'm going to pause here and thank Ms. Sierra about her comment. She said it looks great so far. And hopefully you've seen the work that Public Works has been doing on Broadway. It's a heavy lift to be able to keep that main passageway neat, clean. And they're doing an outstanding job. They were out there in mass this morning to get it right. And hopefully once you hit it, to clean it up from the winter months, that it won't require as much to maintain it. We're calling on the businesses that are along that Broadway strip to chip in and do their part in terms of maintaining, cleaning up the trash and keeping it clean. And so you'll see some improvements with that. But that is something else that is part of the renewal of the community. And thanks to Public Works for making that happen, because it's nice to drive through there and see no litter, no trash laying out there, the curb lines clean and swept. And that's a representation of what we can begin to think of and imagine for our downtown area. Ms. Aubrey, good afternoon to you as well. Jamie Green, thanks again for offering these conversations. My pleasure. And I want this forum to be open for questions too. There's some difficult questions that we have to wrestle with, and we can't hide from those. We can't run away from them. But what we can do is come together as a community and unify behind addressing those solutions. We're not always going to agree on exactly how to approach issues. That's the nature of democracy. We're not all going to agree, but we can at least come to a consensus on what the objective is. The objective to move our community forward, to make it a better community, to offer our community the quality of life that other communities enjoy. And I'll tell you personally, that's where my passion for being a city manager comes from. I lived in 13 different places growing up as a kid because my father was in the service, and I got to see a huge disparity in quality of life from community to community where we lived, whether it was when we lived on the military installation, whether it was a base or a fort, versus the community that surrounded it, disparities that sometimes existed between those two environments, or when we lived in communities outside of military installations, and the quality of life that those residents experienced. And my question was, why can't all communities across the country have that access and that right to quality of life? And my passion was about learning all the things that I could from my experiences in other communities as a city manager, assistant city manager, public works director, school superintendent, and bringing that to a community like our community so that we can offer that quality of life to the citizens in our community, because our kids deserve it as much as the kids in those other community to be able to grow up in that environment. And I've talked to many residents who have told me about the way the Heights used to be and that quality of life that was there then. And so we are focused on not only getting back to that quality of life and bringing that vibrancy back to the community, but even going one step above that and imagining something even better than what it used to be. So, like I said, going back, this is a forum that I want to be open for questions and opportunity for members of the community to learn, where you get to know what you need to know, so you'll be in the know. So that is what I hope that this forum will continue to be and evolve into even more. If you're able to join us live or click on and provide comments and questions in the chat box so that I can address those. So I mentioned a little bit about the drinking water revolving loan fund. And before I go into more detail about that and how that's connected to the roads, I also want to remind everybody that we have close to $1 million grant, $635,000, which is a asset management grant. And I know, I mean, we're talking about large sums of money, and sometimes it's hard for us to imagine how those monies for these particular projects connect to the things that we're concerned about most, which is jobs, putting food on the table, being able to get in and out of your house on the roads. How are all those things connected? And sometimes it's frustrating, I know, from a citizen's perspective, because I've been on the other side of this too, where you see money being put into things, or you hear people talking about money in certain areas, but not the areas where you want to see results. When we talk about the asset management grant, $635,000, that is a grant that was given to us so that we could get a handle on all the assets in our community, specifically water and sewer assets, and become better, more efficient, and more effective in the way that we manage those assets. If we can do that, that frees up money that allows us to use those assets better so that we can put our money into things that are priorities, like increasing the quality of life, like figuring out ways that we can bring technology to bear to address issues with roads. So we've got that $635,000 grant, $100,000 industrial park grant, $7 million drinking water revolving loan fund grant. We just put in for $500,000 in Department of National Resource grants for our parks. So we're hopeful that that's going to come back. We put in for a FEMA grant, a FEMA Go grant for a new fire truck, and hopefully we will be able to, we'll be successful in that grant so that we can begin to replace our aging fleet. We've got fire trucks that are constantly in and out for repair, and we have to do something about that so that we can maintain the public safety in our community. And so if grants are the only way that we can get it done, then so be it. But these are $1 million devices, apparatuses. So it's not something that's easy. Oftentimes, the total cost of it is out of the reach of a community like ours based on our current financial condition. So grants are going to be what makes the difference. But we'll see how that happens. So that grant is in. We have a Department of Transportation grant that went in for work on 9th Street. And so these are things that are coming down the pipe, and we'll see how that comes out. We also have an ask in on the federal legislature for our assistance with our parks. But one question I want to throw out there, oftentimes we have conversations about American Rescue Plan money in Muskegon Heights. But I don't want us to forget that we are part of Muskegon County, and Muskegon County has American Rescue Plan funding that was given to Muskegon County for the county. And so there's an opportunity for us as members of this community to reach out to our representatives on the county level and point out that there are needs in Muskegon Heights that benefit not only residents of Muskegon Heights, but the county wide as well. And so we ask our representatives to think about that and to look at opportunities to identify projects in Muskegon Heights for additional funding for American Rescue Plan funds. I believe the county received somewhere in the neighborhood of $47 million. And so, as you ask your representatives and your legislators who have the authority and the right to determine what those funds are used for, uh, where is Muskegon Heights in that priority list, and is there an opportunity to address some of the needs in Muskegon Heights through the money that was given to the county? And I've referenced this. We had a great presentation in the 2019-2020 period where we had expert consultants come in and pitch the case that if you really want to see economic development in a region, that as a region, you need to take your resources and focus it on elevating the most vulnerable populations. And they gave a whole presentation that clearly identified Muskegon Heights as an area that would provide for the most return on investment to focus on investing resources to bring assets to bear to improve the quality of life in Muskegon Heights. And that improves the region as well. Improving something that's already good gives you less of a move of the needle than you putting money into improving something that really has genuine, authentic need. And so we should be having those conversations with our county representatives about what can be done on that level to bring resources to bear in the city of Muskegon Heights. And so transitioning to roads. So uh, I mentioned the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund, three of the projects that are there. And let me back up and talk about the reasoning. We have miles and miles of pipe, water pipe and sewer pipe underneath our roads, underneath the city. And typically, those pipes have a life expectancy of anywhere between 50 and 75 years to be reasonable based on how well they're maintained. We are nearing a point where our pipes are 50 some odd years old, going back to the 1970s and some to the 1940s. And so we are looking at ways to leverage money that's available from the state and federal government to replace water and sewer pipes in our community. And that's millions and millions of dollars of need that they are making funds available. And that's how we applied for and received the $7 million grant to address water pipe and lead service lines. Thank goodness we have not experienced the issues that other communities have experienced with lead levels. But we don't want to wait until that happens. We want to proactively, preemptively address lead service lines so that we remove that from our infrastructure and mitigate or reduce the possibility that we would ever get lead readings in our unacceptable lead readings in our water. And so the state has recognized their mandate to replace lead lines is an unfunded mandate, and they are making available to us these funding sources for replacing these lines. But realizing that these lines are underground, it is a perfect opportunity for us to piggyback on this funding to fix roads. The state has not made funding available, broad scale funding available to repave roads. We have about 50 miles of roads, 50 plus miles of road that need to be repaved. That funding is not there. And we estimate to repave the roads, it would cost us approximately $110 million to repave those 50 miles of road, realizing that you can't do it all in 1 year. So that is more like a 20-year project to eventually replace all the roads in Muskegon Heights. And that looks like $110 million, including inflation and the increased cost of materials to do that. So it is not something that can be fixed overnight. It's something that we have to have a plan to address. And what we're dealing with, unfortunately, when I came here is 3 years ago, is a road system that was summarily neglected. And I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. I'm not casting dispersion on anybody. I'm just saying the quality, the status of our roads, and I'd be happy to hear anybody argue the opposite, have been neglected. And as such, we have to acknowledge that it is a problem. Um, Fair and simple, frank and candid, it is a problem. And that's not rocket science to say that. But what I do want to say is acknowledging it, recognizing it is a problem. The next step is identifying a solution. And we can scream and yell at each other about how it got to be this way and why it is this way. But my job and my responsibility is to develop solutions. And what I'm saying to our community is, I want you to come together with me and help us develop a solution for addressing the issue that we have with our roads and with our streets as best as possible, given the resources that we have available to us. And I've talked about in previous shows that we are in a structural deficit. And what that means is we are missing, we don't have money. We don't have a surplus of money. And so we have to figure out a way to be innovative, to be able to spend money that we don't have to fix the issue that we have with roads. So again, my job is to come up with solutions. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but I'm here now as the city manager, and my job is to bring solutions, and I want to work together with the community to come up with those solutions, so that we can address this problem that we all acknowledge is a problem. And I will say, I know folks are frustrated. I know it's not easy, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. And I will do my best to explain and make sense out of things that don't make sense in terms of why what roads get done or don't get done, and why it's not being done as fast as possible. But we should be focusing on the solution, not pointing fingers at each other and tearing each other down, because that does not raise our community. What will raise our community is buckling down and acknowledging that we have a problem and a challenge, and focusing on what we can do to fix that today, what we can put in place in the pipeline to address tomorrow, and following a plan to get to where we need to be. Um, and then, in order for us to get to a sustainable point, because we don't have $110 million in the bank, and throwing $600,000 at a $110 million problem is a challenge. But we have to understand, in order for us to get to a point where we have the resources to sustainably address our road issues, notwithstanding the state coming in or the governor coming in and providing a way for us to access $110 million worth of funding in a way that is financially feasible for a community that is already distressed. Um, we have to build new houses. We have to bring our tax base back. We have to bring industry to this community. And some people will say, well, how do you do all of that when the roads are messed up? Well, that is a challenge, and that is a real concern, but it's a chicken and the egg type of situation. I can tell you today, we do not have the money. We do not have $110 million. So we have to take into consideration the possibility and the potential that people would be willing to come to this community based on looking at a plan that we've laid out and a vision that we have set forth, and be willing to gamble on today to relocate to this community, to buy property in this community, to move their businesses to this community today, when it only cost $110,000 or $160,000, realizing that tomorrow, 3, 4 years down the line, when the roads are better, that this is a $350,000 prospect to purchase a home. So get in on you've heard it said before, get in on the front end, get in on the bottom floor, so that you can build up with whatever venture it is. So that opportunity is there. And believe me, from my experience in other communities, I have seen it happen. where the roads were horrible, the buildings were horrible, but that didn't stop investment from coming into that community because people had a vision of what it could look like, even though it didn't look like that today. And they were willing to put their money into tomorrow's vision today. And that's what had made tomorrow's vision possible. When they put that statue downtown in the roundabout in downtown city of Muskegon, from what I'm told, downtown Muskegon was a ghost town. But the money was still invested in that initiative, knowing that the roads weren't ready, the buildings weren't ready, but there was a vision. And people, I submit to you and would argue that people will follow a vision and they will measure their risk return or return on investment. How much money am I willing to put in today based on the potential that tomorrow that my investment will be worth so much more money? And I'll say it's a challenge with the roads the way that they are, but I do believe that people will buy houses here that will cost in Grand Rapids 2 times, 3 times as much because they know in 3, 4, 5, 10 years, the roads will be fixed. And by putting that money in today, that gives us the tax base to be able to fund fixing those roads. So the alternate option is for us to take money out of the air, out of the thin air, and putting into fixing the roads today, so that we can attract builders tomorrow. That's really not a feasible solution. Again, if the governor or the state comes in and says, here's a $110 million line of credit, use it as you wish to, as long as it's on the roads, pay it back later, then that's a whole different story. But until that comes, our solution, our potential solution is to build new houses, to build the tax base, to bring in industry, to rebuild our tax base so that we have the funds to be able to fix the roads. And then until then, we have to work through innovative solutions like using water projects and the fact that we have to dig up roads to replace water pipe as a mechanism to begin to address the road situation in our community. So that $7 million project has an 8th Street project for replacing water lines, a 7th Street project for replacing water lines in the Amsterdam, Rotterdam area, um, uh, replacing lead service lines, estimated 580 lead service lines in that project that also brings repaving with it. So we have to be strategic in how we address that. Next year, we'll be applying for additional grant money to replace water lines that need to be addressed. And we're going to piggyback. We're going to ride that wave of the state providing money for water line replacement as a mechanism for addressing our roads. In the meantime, we're going to build some new houses and we're going to bring industry in. And with a little bit of money that we get from our road millage, that 4 mills, that gives us $368,000 a year on average. We'll continue to do the 2 or 3 blocks of roads that we can address. And if we only operate, forget about the water line projects. If we just did the 4 mills, that $360,000 a year, and the 2 to 3 blocks that we can do with that, we're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of a 50-year project in order to replace all of the lines, all of the roads in Muskegon Heights. And so that's not tenable. That's not going to work. So we got to come up with other mechanisms to increase the amount of revenue that we get from those 4 mills. So that the way we increase the amount that we get from the 4 mills is by bringing in new houses and new industry, renovating the existing houses. And instead of getting 360,000, if we can bring back our tax base, that'll bring us $1 million. If we can bring back our tax base, and if we start operating on $1 million a year, that accelerates the process to doing 5 blocks a year, in addition to water projects. So that's the plan that we're proposing to follow. So some people have asked the question, why does it cost so much to do a road? And what I've been talking about is a full the cost of doing a full reconstruction of a road. And the 5 blocks that we're doing now, or a little under half a mile that we're doing now in Delano, was a full reconstruction. And what you'll notice, and the difference there is that a full reconstruction has curb and gutter associated with it. And we haven't done curb and gutter in this community. Some people have told me that since before they were born. And so if you look on Delano, you'll see curb and gutter. And what that means is we are addressing the flow issues so that we don't have puddling, we don't have flooding. It's one thing to go in and put a new top coat of pavement on top, but if the water still sits on the road, you're going to have the same issue come back again, because water sits, it freezes, it thaws, it finds cracks, it creates potholes. So you have to have proper drainage in order to maximize the value of your roads. Otherwise, you're going to be spending money after money just to maintain it. And so the quality of the roads right now, you can't just come in and put in a layer of pavement over top of potholes. You've got to dig up all the potholes, take out all the pavement, reconstruct the bottom of the road in order to be able to accomplish that. And so quickly, I want to show to you what is the thinking behind how roads are selected, and what the solution is, or the prescription is, for the roads, whether it's paving, just paving and milling, which is just the surface, or a full reconstruction with curb and gutter. We use what's called a PACER rating, pavement surface evaluation and rating. And that is a standard across the country of how you rate the quality of a road, or the condition of a road. And it's usually done through visual inspection. You rate it on a scale of 1, which is poor, and 10, which is excellent. You look at surface defects and deformation, cracks, patches, and potholes. And based on the rating system, you decide what the condition is. Here are some examples of different road surfaces, what they look like, and surface defects. Here is an example along the left-hand side of ponding or puddling, which will eventually lead to the rapid deterioration of that road if that water is allowed to sit through winters and to freeze and thaw. And then we identify that as rutting. Here you have an example of cracks that are going left to right, not in the same direction of the road, but across the road, and the effort that's needed in order to seal those cracks. And here is a alternate visualization of what those cracks look like in red when you identify the small cracks before you decide to seal them, but you know it's coming. So let's look at the PACER ratings again. And this is a document that's available through City Hall and on the website. So 10 being excellent, when it has none of those defects, and 1 being failed, very poor. Looking at our major roads, the PACER ratings, the amount of roads that we had that are in the 9s is only 3.27% of the roads in Muskegon Heights. The majority of our roads are in the below 5 or below. If you add up the percentage of below 5 or even below 3s, that's over 50% of our road. 29% plus 23% plus 5.73%. And when you're in that 3 and below, you're talking about a full reconstruction. Another graph that takes that data that we just looked at and shows it in a bar chart. So here you have the showing in the total of 3s, which is the poor condition. 3 or below is in the 35,000 range. So local roads, that was major roads. Now looking at local roads, our local roads in the 5s and below, you're talking about still close to 50%. When you hit the 6 mark, almost 70% of the roads are below the 6 in quality, poor. And here's a graphic representation of that. Here's a chart that shows those roads that are in excellent condition, 8 or above. And you can see from the map of Muskegon Heights that there are very few roads that are considered in good condition, 8 or above in rating. Now, if you look at 6 and 7s, you got some more that are in the 6 and 7 category. But when you look at below 5, 4, 3, that's where the majority of our roads are in terms of their rating. And I know I'm not telling anybody anything that we don't know. I mean, that the roads are bad. But I want you to see that there is some science and technology behind looking at the condition of our roads, 1 and below. So this is the overall map that shows the condition of the roads. So when you get the map and take a look at it, look at where your streets are and see how it's rated. Is it red for poor, or is it blue for excellent? And you can feel free to voice your opinion on the way it's rated according to this scale. So this is looking at 2018 street improvement millage work. And this is the projected cost of those improvements that were slated back in 2018. Reynolds Street, which was completed except for the section above Hackley, I guess it's above Delano. In 2019, Amsterdam and Rotterdam were slated. That is being addressed through the water project, which is kicking off this year. And then in the 2020 range, Delano was identified from Jefferson to Sanford and from Sanford to Peck Street. And the idea there is that was about $600,000 worth of work. And that's what we're in the process of doing now. Let's see, 2018 was slated for Sanford Street and Getty Street. And these are projects that were slated then and had not been accomplished, so they are prioritized moving forward. You probably won't be able to see this, so when you get to the package, this is just a full breakdown of the scale of the order or prioritization of projects from 2018 to 2021. We're in 2022 now. And so the question is finding the money to go back and do 2018 projects. So looking at the different costs for engineering, inflation, right there with 2018 to 2021 projects, you're looking at over $1.2 million worth of work. And over that time frame, we have collected close to $1 million worth of millage money. Some more information about the condition of roads and the PACER rating, patches. Okay. What we would like to see our roads look like when it's said and done. So this is a brief run through the science of our projects and the way that those projects are laid out. What I want to leave you with is a realization that the vast majority of our roads are going to require a full reconstruction as opposed to milling and paving or crack and seal. We can go in and put a layer of pavement over, and 5 years later, that money will be wasted, because unless you redo the base of the road, you are throwing your money away. The condition of our roads today are such that it requires the base of the road to be reconstructed. So what we have to do is figure out ways to raise our revenues through increasing our tax base, to innovatively or creatively go after grant money for water projects, flood pardon the pun, flood our community with water main replacement projects and use that money to replace streets, or look at special assessments on certain streets where folks are willing to pay out of their own pocket to have their street done. And that's always an option. That's not an option that I like, because if you have 51% of the street that wants it, the block that wants it, you can drive a special assessment, but that's not really fair to the 49% of the block that is opposed to it. So this is where we are now with our roads, and this is the situation that we're in. And I want folks to realize that we're not ignoring it, but to also realize that the money that we have, the very little money that we have, is being applied to the solution the best that we can. People talk about using ARPA money to replace roads, and I'm very hopeful that the infrastructure bill on the federal level will bring us the funding to address the roads. But again, that's a competitive process. We have to get in there elbow to elbow with cities like Detroit and Grand Rapids and Lansing and Saginaw, and to fight for those competitive dollars. And all of those come with a grant. So it's not a smoking bullet, a silver bullet solution. So if we gamble with ARPA money now, that's just a drop in a bucket for a $110 million problem. And it is a solution that might make people feel better today, but in the long run will be a waste of money. And my job and responsibility is to try to look at putting solutions on the table that look at the long range benefit of our community. Something that probably wasn't addressed over the last 30 years that allowed our roads to be neglected to the point that it is. I do not want to repeat that mistake. I do not want to repeat that error. I want us to look at long-term solutions so that our children and our children's children will have the roads that they deserve, that support the redevelopment in our community to bring back the quality of life that we deserve in Muskegon Heights. And that's all part of reaching new heights. And that's what this radio show is all about, reaching new heights, where you get to know what you need to know so you'll be in the know. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. Thank you to 107 The Beat, and continue to have a blessed day.